The Department of International Relations has announced that government is sending additional staff to Mozambique in the wake of attacks in the country. This follows reports that at least one South African has been killed after jihadist insurgents reportedly took hold of a hotel in northern Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province. Several other foreigners have also been killed in the standoff. Some eyewitnesses say Mozambican security completely abandoned the foreigners at the hotel because they had run out of ammunition. Political risk analyst at Signal Risk, Menzi Ndlovu. Very good evening, Menzi. Good to speak to you, but obviously a difficult situation. Government saying it has responded. How much do you know about this response?
Yes, good evening to you, Hugo, and good evening to your viewers. Quite right about the government's stance in Mozambique. It's a bit speculative at the moment, and that's largely due to the fact that much of the narrative that's coming out of there has been closely monitored for quite prudent reasons. It's a very fluid situation, and I think they want to keep a very tight control on the narrative. But what we do know so far is that, as you've noted, insurgents did attack in two areas of Palma town, which is located in Cabo Delgado province. Initially, there was a contingent that was stationed there in Palma that tried to repel the insurgents, but they were pushed back. All right, and around evening time on Wednesday, the reinforcements were sent by the Mozambican Defense Ministry, and they've been engaging the insurgents since then. At the moment, what we know is that a few places remain flashpoints of conflict, mostly around northern Palma town, and the military is yet to secure the entire town, but it does seem that they are making some progress in expelling the militants.
And just how powerful are these insurgents?
That's a very interesting question. I think it's that's a very difficult thing to put your finger on because we're dealing with a situation of asymmetric warfare. So, it's not necessarily their numbers that count, but their ability to exploit certain fault lines. And I think this is one of the factors that belies this attack that we saw. The insurgents were, one, able to penetrate the local population and embed themselves as civilians. And that's something that's very difficult to encounter, or rather to counter, as a formal army. They're able to exploit informal routes. And so that serves as a multiplier to their capabilities versus a more formal mechanized army that, is required to wear uniform and use vehicles and engage in standard modes of conflict. But as the attack that's currently ongoing demonstrates, they are a force to be reckoned with. There was talk that a forward offensive that was launched by the Mozambican army in January had weakened the insurgents. It's now quite apparent that they are still a force to be reckoned with, and more has to be done to sufficiently neutralize the insurgents.
Well, I suppose part of neutralizing is the report that we've had that our government has sent in staff. Now, it's kind of suggests when you send in staff that you're not sending individuals that have AK-47s and other artillery.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this follows a very cautious line that South Africa and much of the SADC region has treaded in its approach to the insurgency in Mozambique. And I think one of the factors behind that is the intricacies behind intervention. You can't just come in there just because you have interests in Mozambique. You can't just come in there and deploy your own army. All right, there are protocols to be followed, and also you want to respect the sovereignty of a particular country. And Mozambique itself has to say, "Hey, folks, come in. We need you," before other countries can come in and deploy. But there is quite a bit of pressure, to shift from this non-combative intervention to more combative intervention. And a lot of that pressure has arisen due to the attack that we are currently witnessing, and due to previous instances which demonstrate that the Mozambican army really is struggling to contain and to neutralize these insurgents.
Maybe tell us, Menzi, what does it mean to the gas sector in Mozambique?
Yeah. It's quite significant. It is very, very significant. So we saw in January, in fact, even prior to that, there was a lot of consternation around activities in Cabo Delgado province because of the insurgency that was going on. And the government and various investors tried to sit down and map out a plan. There were assurances that were made to guarantee the security of these projects. But then we saw an attack in January. And that ultimately prompted Total, which is the largest investor in Mozambique at the moment, to suspend its activities in Cabo Delgado province. There was an attack right outside its facility, and those operations have been suspended for roughly 3 months since January. And I think this attack that we're currently witnessing is going to add to further consternation. One, among folks that are already engaged in Mozambique, like Total, and two, I think it might weigh on potential investment. So we are currently awaiting a final investment decision by ExxonMobil, all right, on its ventures in Mozambique. They were touting around 30 billion, and I think concerns around security are probably going to cause them to pause and reconsider their venture into Mozambique before diving in. And of course, beyond that, you know, the stalling of progress in the LNG sector is going to have short and long-term economic ramifications on Mozambique. A lot of growth that was supposed to occur, the recovery that was supposed to occur in 2021 was largely predicated on the resumption of activity in the LNG sector. If that stalls, the growth gains also stall. So it's a concern for LNG, and it's also a concern for Mozambique's economy at large.
Menzi, thank you kindly for your time. We'll continue to monitor that story. That was political risk analyst at Signal Risk, Menzi Ndlovu.